This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, hello everyone, and from Kansas City at the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention, I'm Dustin Hoffman, and this is Ag Matters PM. Coming up a little later on in the program, we are going to talk with Ethan Robson of agmarket.net and find out what happened in those markets. A little bit of a turnaround Tuesday. But first, we're going to talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. Of course, the government reopening last week. What does that mean for Iowa agriculture and the state in general from his perspective? We find out right now. What's interesting is the USDA is getting all the fiscal year's budget already approved, obviously for SNAP and things like that, but also we're going to fund the rest of the government through January. So maybe talk about why it was important for USDA to at least get a full year's funding out of that when the rest of the government maybe didn't.
Well, just take that SNAP issue right off the table is primarily, but I also believe that it's in part to bring certainty to the agriculture community when there's really challenges all across the board economically. And so I'm appreciative of that. It's hard to be too positive about all this because it was such a frustration. The longest shutdown in U.S. history. Basically, the deal that got struck here to open the government is the same deal that was on the table before the shutdown even occurred. And I think most Iowans, most Americans look at this and say that was just silly. Why did we have to go through that? Why was this situation tried to be leveraged for a policy conversation that needs to be had around healthcare? No doubt about it. But to hold us all hostage, it's causing travel disruptions. It caused obvious angst and disruption to supplemental nutrition. And it frankly shut down our conservation work for 40 plus days, an important time of year. And that's a source of frustration for us. So it's good news that things are reopening and getting back to work. And I know that especially our conservation team has been anxious to get back to work. They want to do good things. They want to get out in the field, lay these practices out. I'm at least happy today that that action can begin.
It is interesting. I did hear somebody say on social media, they said everybody seems to be upset about it, both sides of the aisle. So that means it must have been halfway decent, at least to get, and that sometimes happens. But, one thing we could probably look at it positive, though, out of this is look how much when the SNAP benefits and everything were running out, and there was a lot of critical questions about what was happening, how the state stepped up, how community stepped up, businesses, everything to make sure that people were taken care of, especially at a time when we're changing seasons, it's getting cold and it's getting to the holidays, and people need to be able to eat.
That's certainly true. And look, we work a lot with our food banks and food pantries, and I have so much respect and appreciation for what they do. Again, not a situation that we wanted to be in, but Iowans do reach into their own pockets. They give of their time. They give of their time, treasure, and talents to be able to support those in need. And it's the right thing to do, by the way. It's a safety net for those who have fallen on tough times. And I really am appreciative, especially, and it's a reminder that even though this part of the nutrition piece, the government reopening, the pressure is now off those food banks, the holiday season, especially as we come into Christmas and into the winter months, you're exactly right. The need is still there. And again, I would encourage folks to make donations and volunteer. I think that's the other thing that a lot of the pantries need is somebody to help. And I know they would be appreciative of that.
And speaking of state government and things like that, the legislature giving you guys $100,000 to do some research grants. Let's talk about what those programs are going to open up.
Yeah, so this is all part of that, trying to be proactive, right? And so to develop effective, safe, vaccine strategies that could be deployed especially in the case of African swine fever, because that is still, we do not have that tool in hand yet. There's been a lot of work to develop that. And so I appreciate that the legislature is the governor and the legislature has been incredibly supportive. The speaker, the majority leader, the ag chairs, really across the board have been supportive of our work around preventing foreign animal diseases and responding to foreign animal diseases. And so that's critically important. And this is a way to be proactive while also trying to support that kind of work happening in Iowa. And that's the key, right? We would only do this. We're only supporting this work through the grant for Iowa companies that are working to develop these vaccines. And so it's a bit of an economic development R&D strategy, which we're so known for in the state of Iowa, but it is certainly an effort to be proactive in giving our farmers and giving the department and others tools that we could use in a response.
And that again was Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig here on Ag Matters PM. And right now it's time to go through the closing markets. And we got Ethan Robson of agmarket.net joining us. And what kind of a turnaround Tuesday today, especially for the soybeans and the cattle markets.
It was, yeah. Opened the day up, soybean complex got up to 10 higher to start off in the morning session before the coffee break. Started the morning off seeing a flash sale with China. Saw China purchase 792,000 metric tons of soybeans for the 25-26 marketing year. That was good to see. Obviously, the $1 million question is this soybean demand, soybean export. Is USDA too high with their export numbers? Year to date, USDA is about 11%. USDA's pace for soybeans were about 11% too low on total soybean shipments to reach USDA's export goal. So it's going to be interesting to see and really important to continue to get these soybean flash sales to keep the market moving.
Now, of course, we how much of this is going to be just the dust settling from that excitement yesterday, and now we got to see that money get put where put the money where your mouth is kind of situation.
Definitely think so. Yeah, we saw President Trump actually come out earlier this afternoon, mid-morning or so, saying that he wants China to continue to purchase U.S. soybeans, continue to make these purchases. Seen them be a little bit stagnant of late, saw them resume purchases yesterday. And so the White House continues to put the pressure on China to make these purchases. Even though in the export market, today's purchases that China made yesterday were about $1.15 above Brazilian soybean prices. So this was really seen as a goodwill purchase and just continue for China to help build up their reserve soybean demand.
All right, and I'm sure we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Moving to the livestock side of things, as we said earlier, Ethan, the cattle market, it's been volatile like crazy. Had a really good day yesterday, which kind of put the brakes on what had been happening the last couple of days, but now it kind of making its move back lower again today. What's the story there?
Yeah, relatively quiet day in the cattle side. Seen December cattle down $1.25, February down slightly below that, 220.25. Seen a little bit of a pullback today. Live cattle traded below the 200-day, found the 200-day support on the chart side. Traded up to the 10-day moving average for live cattle. That's going to be important to see. Feeder cattle, same story. Found that 10-day support. A little bit of technical support there. 20-day to get to the target. That's going to be important based on the charts to see some sort of momentum going with there. And then lean hogs, it's been a struggle. Lean hogs hit new lows we haven't seen since April 24th, 2025. And so the lean hogs are trying to find a bottom, trying to find some sort of story here to keep the momentum going from falling too far. And then just kind of a risk-off day in the equities market as well. And feel like that kind of came over to the protein live cattle as well. Stock markets well off the highs as the Fed minutes come out. S&P traded down to its 100-day moving average. Haven't seen that since May 23rd. So kind of just a risk-off day in the equities that kind of fell into the cattle side as well.
Well, Ethan, if folks want to look at some of the intelligence you guys are looking at, some of the reviews and stuff that you guys are coming up with, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Yeah, visit us online at agmarket.net. Test out our free Intel My Farm software. Give us a call here in Bloomington Normal. Be happy to help. 1-800-779-1515.
All right, Ethan Robson's been our guest here on Ag Matters PM. Ethan, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
That again was Ethan Robson of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. At the close, December corn was up 1 1/4 at 4.36 even. January beans down 3 3/4 at 11.53 1/2. Soybean meal down $4 at 326.80 per ton. Soy oil up 99 cents at 52.13. Chicago wheat up 1 3/4 at 5.46 even. Kansas winter wheat down 2 1/2 at 5.26 1/4. Kansas spring wheat up 11 cents at 5.40 even. Minneapolis spring wheat was up 8 1/2 cents at 5.82 1/4. Oats up 3/4 cent at 3.09 1/4. On the Merc, live cattle down $1.30 at 219.97. Feeders down 42 cents at 325.85. Lean hogs down 67 cents at 77.90. Pork cutouts down 60 cents at 93.57. And Class 3 milk up a nickel at 16.90. And that's with a check of the closing markets, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're there and click on the bell icon so you can get notified each time we put out a new video project. From the NAFB convention in Kansas City, right by the Union Station, I'm Dustin Huffman for Riley Smith and Mark Magnuson. We thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.